NFL fan, I don't think there's any doubt July is the longest month of the year. But we still got some stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to preview the AFC East. We spend so much time talking about the Jets. It's time to scout out our rivals and see what they've done this offseason. So we're going to do that. We're also going to talk a little ovah, undah. That's right, Ovahs and Undahs. If you know the old segment from way back in the day on New York Sports Radio, we're going to tell you what the ovah undah for wins is for all 32 NFL teams. And hey, let's figure out if we think that team is going to be ovah or undah. Plus, we got all the regular stuff, 3 and out. We got trivia. We might even have the wheel, but you know what's up. It's Wednesday night, and we are live. Well, welcome everybody back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm your boy Wa2K99, and you are very welcome for being here tonight. No, I am thrilled to have everybody here because even though July, like I said, toughest month of the year if you're a football fan, I had to dig a little bit deeper just like I do for the trivia every week, but we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. But before we get into the content, before we talk about what's on my mind, what's going on in the world of New York City sports, the always crazy world that it is, I want to give a little shout out to you guys, the audience. Let's start with the great Tony Alexio, the agent of one Chris Streveler. Good to see you here. Yes. And rather than watch your local news and get depressed about elections and everything going on, I aim to please. So there you go. The great Jets Mess channel member is here. I appreciate your loyalty and your support, my friend. Thank you for being here. Hank G saying hello to the crowd. Nate with the mask, according to his profile. Welcome, brother. The great Dane O. Go check out his channel and subscribe if you haven't. What are you doing, Nate? Dane always brings the goods on his show. And we've got Robert Bartolo reporting from New Brunswick, New Jersey. We welcome the Cowboys fan into the chat tonight. Okay, so let's talk about what's on my mind. I'm going to get right into this with a little bit of what we like to call 3 and out. First thing I want to do is talk a little bit of baseball. The New York Mets in particular. I'm not gonna get on the Mets. They're right now they're a 500 team. They have scored as many runs as they have allowed. I'm gonna get on my fellow Mets fans, in particular, the group of Mets fans who continues to knock Carlos Mendoza, the manager. It is easy to knock any manager for not making the right move with a pitcher. But but when you have so many pitchers who are exhausted, that are tired because the starters aren't giving length, how much can you really do? But Mendoza is respected by his players, by his staff. He doesn't coddle them. I think he's very fair and honest in how he deals with the media. And if that's how he deals with the media, I'm thinking that's how he deals with the players. He's not a statue sitting in the dugout with no emotions. He's not a shill. He doesn't kiss the backside of his bosses. And, this past road trip, he made some issues that you could question. And anybody could question a manager's move. It's very easy to do. But what I got a problem with is these people who call for a firing every time a reliever comes in and embarrasses themselves. Here's the thing with baseball. These starting pitchers do get coddled. God forbid they even sniff 100 pitches in a game. Heaven forbid they ever get to the third, see the batting order 3 times around, right? But what about these relievers? Nobody cares about them. Reed Garrett, who was just put on the injured list with elbow inflammation, he pitched 3 out of 4 days and threw 70 pitches in that span alone. And to me, that's not on a manager. That is on the philosophy of the organization, and it's going on all around Major League Baseball. I don't see why stars are treated as like these like they're eggs, that are completely fragile and ready to break if you just don't pay attention to them. Whereas relievers, it's just like, who cares? So, but the Mets absolutely had to address their bullpen. They got Phil Maton, most recently of Tampa Bay, Houston before that. Excellent playoff pitcher. I think this is a very smart move, but more moves have to be made. And I'm not the type of person who wants to rush to judgment and say, you got to get this guy out of here, got to get this guy out of here. But some of these pitchers have to get the hell out of here. Adam Ottavino and Jake Diekman. Those are the two. I want Bryce Montes de Oca, the young flame-throwing righty up here. I want Shintaro Fujinami here by the All-Star break. I would even consider Tyler McGill in the bullpen. I would do that. Now, Danny Young is back up, which I think makes sense. Now you have a second lefty besides Jake Diekman. But enough of Ottavino and enough of Diekman. But one other Met I want to give credit to is starting pitcher Jose Quintana. His last month has been amazing. In his last 30 innings, he has allowed only 3 earned runs. That's over 5 starts. So he's averaging about 6 innings per start. And for a rotation that struggles to get out of the 5th inning, Diekman, who some people thought might be trade bait, being that he is in a contract year, he's looking like a piece that you might want to keep around. Also has an excellent history of pitching well in the playoffs. We got the great Scott Foster here. Scotty, what's up, my man? I am glad you stopped by, as you do pretty much every week. So I appreciate your loyalty. Dano is an Alvarez truther. I think most Mets fans are at this point. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully from now on, he knows to wear an elbow guard. All right. So, and as far as the Yankees go, I'll give them a minute. They have lost 17 of 23 games. Carlos Rodon, the more you watch him, the more you see why I did not want him on the Mets, even though some Met fans were screaming for him. You just never know what you're going to get. You're either going to get a great performance from him or he is absolutely horrific. But his latest problem is he can't get out of the first inning without getting lit up. Against Tampa Bay last night, he gives up 4 runs before even giving up an out. I mean, that's a Tom Glavine Mets special right there. And they wind up falling to the Rays 5-3. So through 19 starts, Rodon's first inning ERA is 9.0. And in 4 of his past 5 starts in the first inning, he has given up leads of 4-1, 5-0, 3-0, and 3-0. Unbelievable. I mean, Carlos, and this is a pitcher you're counting on to be like your number 2. Man, oh man, he had one great year with the Giants, and he has stolen money from the Yankees, just like Kyle Wilson and Tremaine Johnson did for the Jets. I don't care about the Mets, but Adam is a champ. The champ of what? I don't know, but the chair maybe wicker chairs. I got that one pretty much in the bag. All right. And, let's spend one quick minute here in the world of hockey, because there has been, a little bit of interesting movement. So, let's flip this over to, let's flip that over to blue. And with the virtual background, I think let's go to the Garden, everybody. Why don't we? There we go. That looks pretty good. But there are 14 players in the NHL that have filed for salary arbitration, a couple of locals. So with the Islanders, you've got Oliver Wahlstrom. Not exactly set the world on fire, but he filed for arbitration. A couple players from Carolina, and that matters because they have been a power in the Metro Division. Jack Drury and Martin Necas, 2 very good young forwards. They are filing for arbitration. Plus, keep in mind, especially if you're a hockey fan, Carolina still has not signed Seth Jarvis to a new deal, and they need to. He was making under $1 million this year. That figure is going to maybe quintuple this coming season. So the Hurricanes still have a lot more salary cap gymnastics to flip around, if that's even a term. But as far as the Rangers go, Ryan Lindgren, who is a restricted free agent, filed for arbitration. Last year, he was a plus 22, recorded 14 points. Now, the Rangers have already given him a qualifying offer of $3.6 million, which means he cannot become an unrestricted free agent. And that $3.6 million, that is the minimum that he can make next season before becoming a UFA. Now, I still think $4 million is very realistic. I expect a long-term deal to get worked out. But also, you have Braden Schneider. He's said to be getting around $2.5 million for about 2 to 3 years. he has gotten better and better as last season went on. If I could give him more than 2 years, I would absolutely do that, but we'll see what happens. But if you factor in about $6.5 million going to those two defensemen, the Rangers had about $8 million to work with. So when you do the math, that leaves you about $1.5 million to work with. And if I'm the Rangers, I think I'm stopping right there. Because remember, in the NHL, when you have cap space during the course of a season, it accrues, and that allows you, that basically is what determines how much salary you can take on around the trading deadline or as the season goes on. So you want a little bit of wiggle room there. But those arbitration hearings are scheduled between July 20th and August 4th. Of course, teams can settle on a number before then. So the Ryan Lindgren contract situation will bear watching. All right, didn't spend a whole lot of time on 3 and outs, so I'll tell you what, let's change the mood. Let's flip it from blue to green, and I want you all to come on a little trip with me. Yeah, let's leave Manhattan and head over to MetLife. There we go. And so now, everybody, we know what time it is, so everybody, say it loud, say it proud, and everybody, let it go. That's what I'm talking about. New York Jets football. Although we are actually going to talk a little bit more about our rivals tonight. We're going to talk about the AFC East teams. Yeah, let's bring this up a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about each team in the division. We're going to talk about New England, then Miami, and then Buffalo. And we're going to talk about who they drafted, talk about the draft class a little bit. Then we're going to talk about who they acquired, whether through a trade or through free agency. Then we're going to talk about who they lost. And also we're going to get into some of the interesting things in the schedule. We're not going to break down, games 1 through 17, but I just wanted to look at a couple of things for each team that I found interesting that could have, affect matters. We'll do record predictions for these teams. And so just kind of a little bit of an outlook on each team. And so let's get right into it. And let's start with the lowest of the low. Satan's favorite football team, the New England Patriots, right? So doesn't it feel good? The kids will just never know. There is like probably a quarter of this country who can't even imagine the idea of the New England Patriots not being in a playoff race. They look at them like a lot of us looked at the Yankees growing up, right? Thank you, Dane. Love the content. I appreciate that. And yours rocks too. And it's never boring, unlike mine, apparently, All right, so let's look at this draft class that New England had. So I got the round, the player, the position, and the school. So first, of course, they drafted Drake May, the quarterback from North Carolina. We all know that the Patriots, as I think I'm spinning around here, thanks to my Wi-Fi connection, I pay $60 a month for. Hopefully I'm not freezing. Okay, looks like I'm back there. Oh, yeah, there is me doing the chant during the draft, right? Love it. Yep, so Drake May from North Carolina. Now, I don't expect Drake May to be playing, certainly not at the beginning of the season. It should be Jacoby Brissett. While Drake May certainly has some good physical abilities, he has a lot of development to go through, and I definitely don't think he's ready to make an impact in the NFL immediately. Now, one thing that New England needed as much as anybody in the NFL was skill position help, especially at wide receiver more than anything. So Jalen Polk was sort of like that inside-outside combo, sort of like that Elijah Moore kind of player from the Washington Huskies. And, of course, he did play with I think he played with Malik Neighbors. So that was a pretty lethal 1-2 combo at wide receiver. But I happen to like Polk quite a bit. Second round seems, maybe a little bit rich, but I think he's going to be a very useful player. And with the little that New England has, it's something that they could, maybe all of us could chip in and give you a qualifying offer. Yeah, super chats are open. I don't know. I have to talk it over with my agent, my yet to be hired agent. Third round, Caden Wallace, offensive tackle from Penn State. When we did our draft breakdowns, we never really talked about him all that much. I didn't even have Caden Wallace in my top, I think, 12 or 13 tackles. All right, so they're taking a little bit of a chance on him. Layden Robinson, the guard from Texas A&M. I did like that pick. Yeah, you notice here, by the way, with this class, 7 out of 8 players are on offense. The Patriots knew what they had to do. The thing with Robinson, though, Cole Strange is going to be hurt to start the year. It's very questionable if he's going to be ready to start week 1. So it is possible Robinson could get some early reps in those games. Javon Baker, I know we had a few people in the chat who are big Baker fans. Big, tall wide receiver from Central Florida. Hands are a little bit shaky, but definitely has good size and good explosiveness. Then you have then the Patriots picked up the phone and dialed Marcellus's number. I know. Yeah, so they did dial Marcellus's number. Anyway, and then Joe Milton, maybe one of the most flammable draft picks in this class. 6th round. Some of the best arm talents to come through the draft in a long time. But again, 24 years old. He's had some injuries, very inconsistent footwork, which leads to accuracy issues. A lot of people tend to think about the arm or the head, making the difference with the accuracy. But I think one thing that your average fan may not look at as much is the footwork. How smooth is the footwork? Do they get the happy feet? Now, if you're a Jets fan, once we got quarterbacks like Sam Darnold did, who had no offensive line to protect them, we learned about the concept of happy feet. All right, so Milton has had issues with those before. And then we have Jaheim Bell as well. So this was a situation where the Patriots just want to get the best available player who is left. So they went out and signed Mr. Bell, just like that, tight end from Florida State. Now, if we keep going past the draft class, let's talk about free agency. So if you look at this list, now I want you to keep in mind on something. The Patriots came into this offseason with over $100 million in cap space. Now, I didn't put in the players who they kept. Now, they kept a lot of their own players. They signed Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, to a new deal. Mike Onwenu, a lot of people thought he was going to leave. They kept him. Kyle Duggar's got a new contract. Josh Uche, I like to call him, but Uche. That was hysterical. That was one of the things I dealt with last year on Twitter. One of these Patriot fans came at me on social media and said, Aaron Rodgers is going to learn, your team is going to learn how great he is. Okay. But anyway, the Patriots chose to keep him. And I think there may have been 1 or 2 other players that they signed to Kendrick Bourne as well. They kept him around. But most of the money they spent went to keep their own team. So we look at this. Jacoby Brissett, who on this list scares you? All right, I want to say hello to the great Harlan Abraham, long-time Jets fan, usually one of the voices of reason in this group, for sure. Jordan Travis will develop, Tony says, Jordan Travis will develop into our franchise quarterback, finally a J.D. Steele. Well, I think Michael Carter, the second, was one of them, and I think there have been a few others besides that. In my humble opinion, and plenty of undrafted free agents. You gotta factor in the undrafted free agents also. Like a Bryce Huff, like guys like that. But there's all kinds of ways to steal players. It's not just late in the draft. It's the undrafted free agents. It's the players who get cut, like a Quincy Williams. So, but I'm glad you're here. So Jacoby Brissett, you know what? We know what he is. He is a professional quarterback. He knows how to manage an offense. You may not want him playing for an extended period of time, but he can manage you for a little while if he needs to. Now, Antonio Gibson. Now, as many of you know, I was living in Commander country. Good Lord. So Gibson really fell out of favor as Brian Robinson emerged. So Gibson was signed to a 3-year contract. Now, I think since his rookie year, he has just not been the same running back. He had 5 fumbles last year alone. Now, Gibson, I think, is going to be probably like the number 2 to Stevenson. They're going to try to tag team those running backs. But I could see Gibson being a running back who falls out of favor very, very quickly in New England. Now, wide receiver KJ Osborne, Osborne's never had more than 700 yards or 7 touchdowns in a season. He's just another guy. With the Patriots receiver room, it's one of those throw enough stuff at the wall, let's see what sticks. So who do you have? You have him, Kendrick Bourne coming back from an ACL tear. You've got Pops Douglas, who I like. You got Juju Smith-Schuster, one or 2 other guys as well. But, this wide receiver group is not going to scare you. Even Jalen Polk as well, as who I mentioned in the draft class, he might be their best receiver already. Then you add Austin Hooper at tight end. Mr. Hooper, yes, 14 in 4 seasons for this guy. Offensive tackle, you got Chukwuma or Corafor. That's you guys know how much time I spend pronouncing these African names for you. The things I do, my gosh. But anyway, he came over from Pittsburgh, and this is the guy who was benched for our old buddy Broderick Jones. That's right, who the Jets I still think would have drafted. But in the last year that Chuck Loomis started back in 2022, he allowed 41 pass pressures. So that's almost 3 a game. Okay, so yeah, so that's really more of a depth signing as well. Then you get to a few defensive guys. Armand Watts, that's depth behind Barmore and Godchu. It's his fourth team in 4 years too. You got another linebacker who's you got Sione here, Takataki, who I think may be the newest member of the Bloodline in WWE. He may be debuting right after Jacob Fatu in a couple of weeks. I don't know. So yeah, he may be in Roman Reigns' family. I don't know. But seriously, who worries you on this list? The answer is not a damn person, not one of them. And then you look. Yes, I am the oosologist for the night. Yes. Yeah. Patriot fans are not feeling very oozy about this roster. And then you look at what they lost. Now, you kind of get addition by subtraction by trading away Mac Jones to Jacksonville and getting, anything more than like a 6th-round pick for him. Ezekiel Elliott goes back to Dallas. At tight end, Mike Gesicki goes to Cincinnati. And Gesicki, to me, is one of those players, I think, as Jets fans, that we still appreciate what he possibly can do. But you know what? This past year, he had the lowest number of catches in his career since his rookie season. He's a gadget player, and he just doesn't do much anymore. Now, the fact that he's going to go play with Joe Burrow, maybe he has an outside chance to have a career renaissance. But put it this way, I don't plan on drafting him in any of my fantasy leagues unless he's the last pick in the last round with my second tight end. That's about it. Now, a big loss for them was Trent Brown. He had 3 good years with New England. He also goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. And, Trent Brown's the kind of offensive lineman you want if you're breaking in a rookie. And then Mac Wilson leaves for Arizona. Jalen Mills, very good cornerback, goes to the Giants. Of course, the Patriots do have a pretty good secondary with the Christian Gonzalez's and the Jones of the world. I think they still have 5 or 6 quarterbacks named Jones. Jonathan, Marcus, I think they got Smarty Jones and George Jones and whatever Jones breakfast sausage, whatever Joneses are out there, the Patriots pretty much signed them to play in the secondary. Oh, yeah, and they might have lost their head coach. You may have heard about that. That news kind of went around as well. But if we look at the schedule, so let's analyze what we got here. They have 7 games against playoff teams. So you got at San Francisco, home against Houston, the Rams, and then, of course, you have 4 games against Miami and Buffalo total. Now, in October, they got a really weird stretch. They have 4 non-road games in a row. Now, why didn't I just say 4 home games, you ask? Well, here's why. Their October schedule is this. At home, Miami, Houston, Jacksonville on a neutral site, and the Jets. All right, so if you don't count London as a road game, which I don't think you really can, they don't have a single road game in the month of October. Their bye is very late, week 14, and according to Sharp Football, they have the second hardest strength of schedule. Now, I know we only put so much in a strength of schedule because it could change so quickly. Injuries happen, players emerge, all kinds of things. I know it's all about when you get the team. We all understand that, but it's just try to give a little bit of context on what to expect from these teams and the level of competition that they may be facing. So as I kind of do like an overall Patriots outlook, again, they basically did a good job of maintaining a bad roster. Hunter Henry, Jalen Reagor, Anthony Jennings, those are a couple of the other players that they kept with their salary cap space to go along with Onwenu, Stevenson, Kendrick Bourne, and Josh Uche, and guys like that. Now, there's talent in spots. Matthew Judon, coming off an injury, but a great pass rusher. I like Christian Gonzalez a lot at cornerback, but he's very young. Christian Barmore is a fine defensive tackle. They have a great safety duo in Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggars. But as Jet fans, we've seen when the best thing on our defense was the safeties, when we had Jamal Adams and Marcus May. And how good was that defense, really? Not so great. So I don't see it having a whole lot of impact. We'll see what Jared Mayo winds up doing. But I think the Patriots have enough here and there when they could steal a win in spots. I definitely think they're going to be one of the bottom 5 teams in the NFL, and I'm giving them a 5-12 record for the 2024 season. We've got the great it's the Yeti! It's the Yeti! Good to see you here as well, my friend. All right, so that is the breakdown of the Patriots. Now let's talk about the Miami Dolphins as we brighten the screen up a little bit. Man, the teal on green is quite a contrast, isn't it? If you squint really hard, you can't even tell the difference. So the Dolphins, to me, had a very intriguing draft class, and I'm going to tell you why. So with their first pick in the first round, they draft Chop Robinson, an edge from Penn State. Second round, they go Patrick Paul, offensive tackle from Houston. And I actually felt if the Jets went with like a wide receiver in the first round, Patrick Paul, I thought would have been a great target if they managed to trade back into the second round somehow. But the Dolphins get him. It was the middle rounds where I was particularly impressed with what they did. Jalen Wright, running back from Tennessee. That was one of my favorite running backs, one of my top. I think I had him rated as my fourth or fifth running back. But hey, I also had Braylon Allen in my top 5 running backs as well. But I like Jalen Wright a lot. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get behind Mostert and A-Chain, but that's the situation he's going to find himself in. In the 5th round, Muhammad Kamara, we broke him down incessantly as one of the real sleeper edge rushers from Colorado State. Good job by the Dolphins getting him. Although I did find it interesting they doubled up on edge rusher, when they already have, say, like Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips and guys like that. Malik Washington, I think a lot of us were very surprised that he dropped all the way to the 6th round. If the Jets didn't get Corley, maybe Washington was a player they would have been interested in. But I think most of us expected him gone somewhere around the 4th round. He drops all the way to the 6th. And then Patrick McMorris, safety from California, and then another wide receiver named Washington, Taj from USC. So what surprised me the most about this draft class is they did not address the interior of the offensive line or the interior of the defensive line. They went to the outside with 3 of those picks. And we're going to talk about what the Dolphins have lost because they've lost quite a bit. I mean, the Dolphins had a very tumultuous offseason with what they gained and what they lost. And I just thought it was interesting. I guess they were going best player available, but I just wonder about the middle of their lines. I have a lot of questions about that. I think Quinn Williams and guys like him, and Christian Barmore, whoever else you want to throw out there, can maybe exploit the middle of that Dolphins offensive line. Dave with a very fair question. Will the Pats be mathematically eliminated before their bye week? And if so, will that be a record? The Patriots' bye week is week 14. At that point, they could very well be 3-11. Every year you have about 2 or 3 teams who are up above in each conference, up and above everybody, 2 or 3 that are right on the bottom, and everybody else is kind of jam-packed in the middle. I don't think there's any question the Patriots are going to be towards the bottom. Will they be eliminated? I think it's going to be like one of those scenarios. Now, for those of you who are long-timers who have been with me for a couple of months now, you might remember that. Do you guys remember the one night, it was like 4 weeks left, and I came up with the most realistic scenario where the Jets could grab a wild card spot? Believe me, I had to go deep into that Yahoo tracker, but I really tried. And I came up with a somewhat not completely smoke too much meth insane way to figure it out. The hardest part was the Jets winning, and of course they lost immediately. I could see the Patriots being in that kind of a situation where, if they win these 4 games, if this team loses 3, that team loses 2, if the moon comes up this way, if there's no MTA transit strike, if I hold my leg to the right, at 3 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, the Patriots might make the playoffs. I think that's the level of scenario we're talking about. But I would say by week 16, with 3 weeks left to go, they will be bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's sort of the deal with the draft class for Miami. On to who they gained. And again, I'm not overly worried about this class. They signed Odell Beckham Jr., okay, and who, he's not getting any younger at this point. Jonnu Smith, who has not been the same ever since he left Tennessee. He went to New England, did nothing, along with Hunter Henry. Now he's off to Miami. It is possible that he could have a decent role in that offense because we all know Miami has one of the best offenses in football. Tua did lead the league in passing yards last year. You can't take that away from him. So if Smith is like your fourth or fifth best passing option, then fine. But they signed Aaron Brewer to play center. He's formerly of the Giants. Tyre Tart. I know guys like Dom C. Big fan of his. Good run-stopping defensive tackle. They signed Jordan Brooks, the linebacker from the Seahawks. That's okay. But then you bring in Kendall Fuller at cornerback to replace Xavier Howard, Jordan Poyer at safety, who's 33 years old, had a great career with Buffalo. But again, how much are you really expecting from him? Oh, also Marcus May. They signed him as well. Dane, I'm telling you right now, Tego, the great Tego, I haven't talked to Tego in a while, but the great Tego was hoping that Beckham would sign with the Jets last offseason for one reason. He knew I would have the rant of a lifetime if the Jets signed him. I've never liked Beckham. I've never wanted Beckham, and I damn sure didn't want him on that team. Not at all. Not at all. Not a place that still doesn't, that is really young, that would be in awe of him. No. If I'm a team, like if I'm Kansas City, if I'm Baltimore, if I'm a team like that, I would say Philadelphia, but I can't even include them anymore. But if I'm from an organization that knows how to do business, Pittsburgh, and has done it a certain way for a certain period of time and demands that he conform to how we do our stuff, then we're talking. But I'm not going to a place where Beckham is going to be like, they're going to be like, ooh, it's OBJ, it's OBJ. No. Not a good idea. So, yeah, is anybody impressed by this? I mean, you've replaced Connor Williams with Aaron Brewer. You've replaced Christian Wilkins with Tyre Tart. I mentioned Poyer is 33 years old. We don't know what Beckham has left. And then you look at what they lost. I mean, look at this list, especially on defense. You lost Cedric Wilson, a wide receiver. Connor Williams tore his ACL towards the end of last year and is most likely going to retire, from what I've heard. Robert Hunt, excellent guard. Carolina paid him up the wazoo to come play for them and help protect their young quarterback, Bryce Young. And what did the Dolphins really do to replace him? Not a whole heck of a lot. So, I mean, I'm going through the list. They didn't sign or draft a guard. They did not do that. And then you look at the defense, Christian Wilkins. If there was one player that I thought they would make an effort to keep more than anybody, it was Christian Wilkins, and he bolts to the Raiders. I think that is going to be a devastating loss for them. I really do. And on edge, Andrew Van Ginkel, Emmanuel Ogbah. Ogbah, by the way, still has not signed. He is still a free agent, believe it or not. But Van Ginkel goes to Minnesota. Then Jerome Baker, one of their leaders. Sort of, I don't want to say they're C.J. Mosley, but he was kind of the brains of that linebacking group of the defense. He leaves. He goes to Seattle. So essentially what Miami did is they traded Jerome Baker for Jordan Brooks. I'd say Seattle would win that exchange. And a cornerback, Xavier Howard, he's a free agent. You lose a couple of safeties into Sean Elliott to Pittsburgh, Brandon Jones to Denver, who I was interested in for the Jets. So you lost your best defensive lineman, maybe your two best offensive linemen from a unit that wasn't even that good to begin with. But the biggest loss maybe of all, outside of maybe Christian Wilkins, Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator, bolts for the Philadelphia Eagles. So their new defensive coordinator is Anthony Weaver. Now, he's got a lot of experience coaching defense, but he's only been a defensive coordinator one season in the NFL, and that was with the 2020 Houston Texans. So Miami to me is the same bully team that they've always been. And I feel like they lost some leadership, especially on defense. To me, they are only going to be more of what they were last year. To me, you got two real bully teams in football. You got the Dallas Cowboys and you got the Miami Dolphins. They will beat the crap out of the bad teams, but if they get punched in the mouth, they can't handle it. They're bully teams. And, they can get to the playoffs, but do they win playoff games? Are they able to win the games that count? Can they go on the road and win a big game? Especially in the cold weather. So to me, these teams are practically mirrors of one another. And then you look at the schedule for a moment. So Dolphins only have 6 games against playoff teams. They go to LA to play the Rams. They're at Green Bay, at Houston, host San Francisco, and they play Buffalo twice. But Their last 6 games are crazy. Let me go through the final 6 games of the Dolphins season as the weather starts to turn cold. At Green Bay, home against the Jets. At Houston, home against San Francisco. At Cleveland, in frigid Cleveland, Ohio. At the Jets. The Dolphins have an absolutely brutal finish to their schedule. Their bye is very early in week 6. I could see it's one of those things. The Dolphins can get off to a hot start facing some teams that aren't so good, but don't be fooled. Remember, those final 6 weeks, that has a chance to break them, and that could cost them that division too. Dane, a quick, So it says with Beckham, couldn't get open on a stacked offense either. And that Baltimore offense, by the way, was missing Mark Andrews for a good portion of that season. So, the offense may have been stacked, but, when it comes to wide receiver, they have a little bit, but they don't have, Zay Flowers, we like him, but he's still a rookie, So, the offense is stacked, maybe getting stacked in Baltimore, but to me, it was still a little bit shorthanded last year. All right, so you still have maybe the best 1-2 punch of wide receiver in the NFL with Hill and Waddle. 2 is very good, but his health is always going to be a question mark, and now the offensive line is more of a question mark. I think the Dolphins have enough cupcakes at the beginning of the year where they will finish with a winning record. I'm going to give them a 9-8 finishing record for the 2024 season. So that's my thoughts on the Miami Dolphins. Now we go over to the Buffalo Bills, who are constantly circling the wagon, right? And hey, guys, if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts, put them right down there in the comments. I'll be sure to respond. If you have a question, good one that makes me think, I will definitely take a look at it. All right, now we get into the Buffalo Bills. So I had to divide this draft class into 2 columns. You got in the second round, Keon Coleman, because the Bills traded down a couple of times. So Bills, as we know, lost a ton at wide receiver, and they drafted one in Keon Coleman, very tall receiver, not the fastest guy, but sort of that red zone target from Florida State. A little bit like Malcolm Floyd, maybe from San Diego back in the day. Cole Bishop from Utah, they took him in the second round. Another one of my favorite players. Also Dwayne Carter, defensive tackle, captain at Duke. That was another player that we broke down in depth, hoping the Jets could get him. They did not. Ray Davis, intriguing running back, 24 years old, a very physical style runner. So very good at running downhill, but he's already got some tread that's worn on the tires a little bit. And then, so even though they had 10 picks, only 4 of them were in the first 4 rounds. Now we go to the 5th round. Cedric Van Pran, the center from Georgia. Mr. Ulo Foshiu, the linebacker from Washington. He goes there. Javon Solomon, the edge from Troy. Tyler Grable, tackle from Utah. Daquan Hardy, cornerback from Penn State. And Travis Clayton, a guard from nowhere. From absolutely nowhere. So basically what the Bills did is they took a lot of lottery tickets. They lost a lot of pieces in free agency, and they felt they had to sort of restock the shelves, so they traded down. I like the Bishop Carter picks very, very much. I like Solomon as a edge rusher that you can develop as the year goes on. Daquan Hardy, not bad. Most of the other, and Van Pran, I think, can be pretty good too, although I expect him probably on the bench to start the year. But most of these guys, it's like, okay. But all of these players are very limited in their own ways. So I could see this class working out pretty well, but most likely I just don't love the class. I think they're just trying to fill roster spots with most of these picks. And remember, we talk about the Idzik 12, and by all means, it deserves to be ripped. But remember, most of those picks were 5th, 6th round were selections. So that's important to be remembered. Dane, I don't know if Keon Coleman is going to be the guy, especially not in his first year. But you know what? I think a lot of teams are going to put their number 1 cornerbacks on him, because who else are you going to put it on? We'll talk about it. We'll break it down. But, if you have for the most part, I think the obvious play is Josh Allen throwing these jump balls, these alley-oop passes to Coleman. But, because he still doesn't have the explosiveness and all that other stuff that you want from a well-rounded wide receiver. And speaking of well-rounded wide receivers, we'll get to that on the next slide. Let's talk about who they gained. I tried a smooth transition there. It didn't quite work. So they signed Mitch Trubisky to be their backup quarterback. They do bring in a bunch of wide receivers in Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool, and MVS from Kansas City. Most of these guys, again, who really worries you here? Curtis Samuel is a fine, third receiver maybe. Mac Hollins is like a depth guy. Chase Claypool is getting shuffled around throughout the NFL after a decent first year in Pittsburgh. And MVS is good for maybe one big play a month. That's basically it. If you can't light up the world with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, even if you're going to Josh Allen, how much are you really doing here? All right, so they signed a lot of receivers, but again, it's all about, depth. It's about filling bodies. You know what it reminds me of? After the Minnesota traded away Randy Moss, I think they traded him over to the Oakland Raiders. I remember watching a pregame show on Fox, the NFL pregame, and they interviewed all these wide receivers that Minnesota had now. I can't even remember who they were. Maybe that'll be a trivia question next week. I don't know. But I remember one of the receivers said, last year, you knew who the ball was going to. This year, you don't know who it's going to. Well, the Vikings sucked that year because none of them could freaking get open. Oh, my gosh. It's like the Mets bullpen. You can have a lot of arms, but if they all suck, you're not going to get any outs. It's really that simple. But they also signed Will Clapp, right tackle Lyle Collins, who was a free agent for most of last year, Austin Johnson, defensive tackle, Nicholas Morrow, formerly of the Eagles. I like him as a linebacker. He's pretty good. And the safety, Mike Edwards, who is in Kansas City. To me, if you look at the Buffalo offense right now, the focus point of their offense is now Josh Allen throwing the ball to Dalton Kincaid, the tight end. That's really it for me. There's not really a threat at wide receiver. Thank you, Pa2K99. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We definitely work hard to do it. But look at all they lost. Stephon Diggs, trading him to Houston. People are thinking that maybe Diggs has peaked. That may be true, but in my mind, Buffalo did not do much to replace him. Gabe Davis, sort of like a younger MVS, good for maybe one big play a game every 2 games, and that's about it. I know he makes these big plays in playoff games, but if you draft Gabe Davis as a wide receiver, especially in fantasy, he will drive you nuts because you'll play him for 3 weeks and he won't do much. But then the week you bench him, he'll have an 80-yard touchdown. It's so frustrating. They lose Deontay Hardy. They lose Trent Sherfield. Ryan Bates, offensive tackle. Mitch Morse, the center. They go as well. And on defense, they had some major losses. Leonard Floyd. Last year when I did a video about the biggest signings in the AFC East, free agent signings, Leonard Floyd was my number 1 signing that went under the radar, and that proved to be the case. And thankfully, he is now gone. Of course, he goes to San Francisco. So for the second straight year, the Jets got to see him week 1. At least now we have a competent left tackle to try to block him. Jordan Phillips, he leaves. He goes to the Giants. Trey White, their longtime corner, on the Rams. Dane Jackson goes to Carolina. And as we mentioned earlier, Jordan Poyer and all his leadership goes to Miami. Swig of water for the working man and woman. Tastes good. We got the great Nick Shine here. And I just talked about your buddy Curtis Samuel. Yeah, go out and check out Proud MYJ Fan. Does several shows a week. Usually I believe it's Fridays and Sundays most often. And you never know who might pop up on that particular show. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but 16 months, congratulations, my friend. Very, very proud of you. All right, Tony Alexio. Will Rodgers develop Saleh into a decisive head coach, especially against rookie coaches? It's not. It shouldn't be the quarterback's job to teach the coach how to coach. But that has been one of my biggest questions about the Jets season this year. What is Robert Saleh going to do in a big moment? Because the truth is he hasn't had a lot of big moments to make big decisions. He's had a couple. Now, a lot of people will go back to that one game against Detroit where he completely mismanaged the clock. But outside of that, I haven't been overly upset with how he's called a game, whether it's, kicking or going for it on 4th down, that type of stuff. When to challenge, when not to challenge, when to use timeouts. I don't hate that. Every coach is going to screw that up at some point. What I'm most worried about with Saleh is focusing on the things that need to be focused on. because in one of those studies, the biggest criticism of his, sometimes he doesn't maximize the use of his time. It's about efficiency with him. I feel like Saleh's biggest issues are off the field, not so much on the field. So maybe run a few less steps this year, Rob, and make sure that you're more in touch with your entire team, not just the defense. So, but to me, this is Saleh's make or break year. That is how I really feel at this point. All right, so now let's analyze the Bills' schedule for a moment. So you've got 8 games against playoff teams. That's almost half their schedule. So you got the 2 against Miami, at Baltimore, at Houston, home against Kansas City, home against San Francisco. So that's wow. That is crazy. So they're facing all 4 teams that made the conference championship games, because at Rams and at Detroit as well. That is one brutal schedule. But then you have 3 road games in a row early on. So weeks 4 through 6, they go to Baltimore, to Houston, and to the Jets 3 weeks in a row. To me, that is the toughest part of their schedule. And they close the year with 3 straight division games. Home against New England, home against the Jets, and at New England. So who knows what the Patriots might be done at that point. Maybe they're playing spoiler. But I do find it interesting that the Bills and Patriots don't face each other until the final 3 weeks of the season. I don't have to take this. I'm going home. Anyway. All right, so 10th hardest strength of schedule. That's what the Bills have, according to Sharp Football. So that is the analysis. So, so really with the Bills, I think it's going to be them and the Jets for the division, really. I think Miami's going to kind of fall off at the end. Of course, I expect a 3-way race most of the year. But again, with that brutal finish that Miami has, I think they fade away. And while the Bills, I think, have an excellent defense, I just don't think that they have enough offensive weapons to score enough points to beat some of the best teams in football. I think they're going to go, at this point, I'm thinking 9-8, 10-7, one of those 2 records. But that's what I'm leaning towards as well. Right now, I think the over under on them is 10.5. I would definitely take the under on Buffalo. Tony Alexio with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it very, very much. Yeah. It's we definitely put a lot of time into this. And those subscriptions, that we do to bring you the content, they do cost. So you can do the super chats, and of course the memberships are open as well for just $5 a month. You'll get all the emojis and all that crazy stuff. All right, I'm done doing the plugs. But all right, let's see. As Nick is sending me a quick text. Okay. We just got a brand new channel member. Unfortunately, I can't pronounce his name. All right, so let's get those. Mess and I are going to take care of the emojis. There we go. And then of course, there's the wicker chair. All right. Okay, so let's do something a little. I'm thinking about this. Should we go? We're gonna do the ovah undah tonight. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, we got a good amount of time. Let's do the ovah undah. Okay, so let's add that to the list. So basically, what's going on? And of course, I'm not necessarily encouraging betting. I'm not going to get on it like Frankie and Flatbush did back in the day. But again, use this information at your own discretion. All right. So every year, of course, different websites release their projected win totals for every team. And so we're going to go through all of those tonight just on one slide. So we'll give you the number and the teams that have that number. And then I'm going to give you 3 ovahs and 3 undahs. Okay. So ovahs and undahs. So at 11.5, that is the highest mark. And they've got San Francisco and Kansas City. All right. And then at 10.5, you've got 5 teams: Philadelphia, Buffalo, Detroit, Baltimore, and Cincinnati. And definitely throw your comments about this down there in the chat. 9.5, they've got 6 teams. They got Dallas, Miami, the Jets, Atlanta, Houston, and Green Bay. All right, so then 8.5. So now we're kind of in the middle of the road. Chicago, Indy, Cleveland, the Rams, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego. At 7.5 wins, they've got Tampa Bay, Seattle, and Nolans. 6.5. You've got Arizona, Minnesota, the New York Football Giants, the Raiders, the Washington Commandskins, the Tennessee Titans. Then at 5.5, you've got the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos. And fine, pulling up the rear, the ass of the league with 4.5 wins, the New England Patriots. All right. So I look at this. I'll give you the three ovas first. And my first ova, no bias, local bias whatsoever. I'm going to give you the Jets. If the Jets had been at 10.5, I'd be a little bit more on the fence. But to me, all you're asking me to do is say the Jets will finish at 10-7 or better. But the Jets, to me, have one of the most balanced rosters in the NFL. And here's the thing. They are very good at the positions where you need to be very good to win games. You have one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. You have your elite wide receiver, elite cornerback, several excellent pass rushers. You've reinvigorated that offensive line with leadership and people who aren't going to take any BS. So let's see. Do I believe that New England is sub 250 with that defense? No, I don't. Well, actually, let me pull up the calculator. Dang, you're asking me to do math here. Come on, dude. I spend half my day doing math. Come on, dude. No, I got them at 5. And again, these aren't my numbers. These are the numbers that have been published, I think, in Vegas. Yeah, I got them at a 294 winning percent. Here's the thing. You gotta think of a couple of teams who are going to struggle. And again, who are they throwing the football to and how good is their offensive line? Sure, they have some good pieces on the defense. They'll stay in games. But, if you have some close games, special teams comes into play. Chad Ryland's not a very good kicker. Okay? Chad Ryland is not Nick Folk. So to me, it's like, who is going to lose a bunch of games this year? Not everybody can win. There's always going to be about 4 or 5 teams that win, say, 6 games or less. So think about who they would be. I mean, for me, I'm going to get into those teams in a moment, but yeah, I didn't pick New England with either of them, but I've got New England. If it's 4.5, I'm taking the over on that one. And again, the Jets have one of the easier schedules in the league, facing teams like towards the bottom, like Arizona, Minnesota, Tennessee, facing New England twice as well. So yeah, I don't think the Jets really have the most brutal schedule. So, and the teams that they face that are good, for the most part, they're coming into our house. Like the real exception is San Francisco. So, all right. So another over for me is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles at 10.5. I think we're going to know very early what they are. It's going to be interesting to see how they come back from the way they just melted down last season. But I could see 11 wins, maybe even 12. And one of the reasons is I don't think very highly of the NFC East. I think the Giants and Washington, that's 4 wins right there for them. So, yeah. And you look at some of the other first-place teams in the NFC outside of San Francisco, the North. I mean, Philly, Detroit will be fun. But the South, I'm not worried about Tampa Bay. I think that's a revenge spot for Philadelphia. So, to me, I'm going to give Philly the over. And another over for me is going to be the Chicago Bears at 8.5. So all I'm saying here is they're going to be a better than 500 team. And you look what they brought in on offense. DeAndre Swift at running back, Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze at wide receiver to go along with DJ Moore. And then you have Cole Kmet at tight end. You have some good offensive linemen there with Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones at the tackle positions. And their schedule is not that bad. They play the AFC South. That's pretty much the division you'd want to play. On their schedule, they've also got the likes of New England, Washington, Arizona, Carolina. I think Chicago is going to make a run for the playoffs this year. And, it's been a minute since the Bears have been a decently good team. I think every year there's one of those surprise teams that is getting a little bit of buzz, but people are a little bit afraid to believe in them. I know you've got a rookie quarterback, but I think there's enough around them to, especially with Swift at running back, to kind of lead the way. So I think the Bears are going to be right in the middle of that playoff race all the way to the end. So those are my ovas. Now for my undahs. I am going to go ahead and say it's going to happen. For the first time since I think Gerald Ford was president, the Pittsburgh Steelers will not have a winning record. I'm going to take the Steelers under 8.5. The Steelers, I think, have the hardest schedule in the NFL. You've got that absolutely brutal division. Cleveland's got a great roster. Cincinnati's got Joe Burrow back. We all know what the Baltimore Ravens are. Plus, you got to deal with Dallas, the Jets, at Philadelphia, home against Kansas City and Cincinnati. I think the Steelers are going to have it really, really rough. I know Pittsburgh always seems to way to make it, but how much do you still believe in Russell Wilson at quarterback right now? I just don't know. I expected more from Najee Harris. I really did. Sure, they've got some great pass rushers. I just don't think that they're on the level of some of these other teams. And again, look at the schedule. It's brutal. It is absolutely brutal. Another undah for me, I'm going to go towards the bottom of the list, is the Carolina Panthers. I've got them at undah 5.5. Free agency frenzies rarely work. If you're a Jets fan, you know that. Jaguar fans, they know that as well. Patu K99 does not have much confidence in Dallas. Yep, one playoff win, and that's pretty much it. Basically, they're the Toronto Maple Leafs. I knew he'd appreciate the hockey reference. But, I just think 5 wins is about right for Carolina. I know they signed a lot of players, but I am just not a believer in Bryce Young or what's around him. With Chuba Hubbard, Adam Thielen, who's aging. Your best tight end is Tommy Tremble. They really upgraded guard with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt, but still, some of these other guys like Ike Ekwonu, he's not really inspiring people either. So, yeah, I just don't have a lot of love for Carolina. And I'll give you one other undah, and that's going to be the Minnesota Vikings at 6.5. Now, to me, this was kind of a tricky one. Now, to me, the Vikings definitely have talent, but as I look at the NFC North, I think they're the bottom team in this division. Now, look at the Vikings. Look at their first 8 weeks. This is the Vikings schedule to start off. At the Giants, not bad, but it's on the road. Home against San Francisco. Home against Houston, at Green Bay. Then you got the Jets in London. Then the bye week. Home against Detroit, at the LA Rams. That is a brutal start, and I think they're going to be buried very quickly. And then J.J. McCarthy is going to be coming in, trying to make something of the season. I think 6-11 is about the right spot for them. I think there's just too many questions at quarterback and defense. I mean, what were the big things they did on defense? They brought in Andrew Van Ginkel and our old buddy Blake Cashman at linebacker. So, yeah, it was tough to find an undah. I was really, really confident. I wanted to go undah with Atlanta, but I look at the rest of the division and how much offense they have. I thought about Green Bay as well, but Green Bay was probably the other one that was very tempting to take as an undah. So that is where I am. Those are my 3 ovahs and my 3 undahs. And in the coming weeks, we'll do standings predictions and awards predictions, all kinds of cool stuff. Hey, Greg Rallo, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. I do appreciate it. Dane, I'm not here to give betting advice, but putting in 10 to get out 28.50, I don't think that's too bad of a bet. I don't think that's too bad. I'm not much of a gambler. I'll do like one football pool a year, and I'll put a little bit of money into that. But I put a limit on what I'm going to gamble. I keep it at like $100 or less, nothing more, and that's pretty much what I do. But I don't like to gamble every single week. It's just too much. It's just too much. It's one thing to root for a fantasy team that's free, but when money gets involved and I got to start rooting against the Jets, that's where it starts to get really rough. So, people blame me for a whole lot of stuff that isn't my fault. So it's all good. All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you what. It is 7 p.m. So we've been on for about an hour. So I think it's about that time where I bust open the books. I scroll through the websites. And I, Watsu-K99, challenge you, the most loyal of the most loyal fan base in the NFL, the New York Jets fans. Just how much do you know about Gang Green? How much do you know about the New York Jets? So if you are ready, let's play Jets Trivia. All right, Hank G knows what time it is. It's Tiffy time. No, it's trivia time. There we go. Yeti loves some trivia. There we go. Not a smart pick now that I'm in North Carolina. Yeah, there is a tendency that I move to a state or a region and those teams start winning championships. It ain't going to be the Hornets or the Panthers within the next 5 years. I can guarantee that is not. Now, I would say maybe a team like Duke or UNC might win the college basketball champion. They might win the national championship. You might want to put a few shekels on that. I moved down here, and it was right around that time that NC State made the Final Four, and I was very happy that happened. All right, guys, so here's what we're going to do. You all know the rules. I set the timer for 5 minutes, and I'm going to ask you guys a trivia question. I always try to make it kind of topical if I can. And so tonight, we talked a little bit about the AFC East division, so I thought I would give us a little AFC Eastern Division trivia. All right, so your question tonight is going to go like this. Name the only player who played at least 50 games with the Jets who also played for both Miami and New England. Your time starts now. And this is where I wish I could play the music, but those jerk-offs at YouTube love to flag me. All right, so he played at least 50 games in his Jets career, and at some point he also played for both Miami and New England. So let's throw those guesses down there in the chat. And I can assure you Lee Crevette is not the answer. And I will tell you this, he played offense. Yes, the Vikings brought in Rip Van Winkle. Don't sleep on that signing. Hank G says Vilma. I don't think Vilma – did Vilma play anywhere besides the Jets and the Saints? I only remember him with the Jets and the Saints. Yeah. Those are the only teams he ever played with. Yeah. All right, so it was not Vilma, and it was on offense. Greg Rallo says Keith Byers. Well, the thing with Keith Byers, he played for both. Just 1 second here. I'm just pulling up Pro Football Reference just to be 100% sure. You're very close. The catch with Keith Byers is he only played 34 games with the Jets. So it was a good guess, but wasn't him. Not Nick Folk. No, Folk has not been in Miami. So, but I liked where you were going. No, it was not Braxton Berrios. Wasn't here quite long enough, I don't think. But that's a good guess. Yeah, Berrios with the Jets played. Berrios never actually played for New England. That's the catch. He did play 65 games with the Jets, and he was, New England had him initially, but he never suited up in a game for them, I don't think. Yeah, he never played for New England. So that is very close. Testaverde, that was Miami University. No, yep. Miami University, but yep, pretty good. Did they start here? Yes, Stain, they did. Yes. Oh, did they start? Yeah, he started a little bit. Vlad Dukas. No, Vlad went to Buffalo. The ghost of Wayne Hunter. Just for that. Yeah, that just the mention of Wayne Hunter gets a buzzer on our channel. Kyle Wilson, you're banned for 5 minutes. Yeah. All right. Roger likes to come in and take my gimmick. He likes to ask a question. All right, Roger. I'll tell you what. After we do this one, go ahead and ask away. All right, we got 1:45 to go. Played offense and skill position player. So not a quarterback, not an offensive lineman. So he was either a running back, wide receiver, or tight end. Yeah, I had to really do some filtering to be like, okay, how can I word these questions in a way where it's good? Yeah, but there is, by the way, there is no player who has played with all 4 AFC East teams. So that has never happened, not yet. There have been a number who played for 3, but none have played for 4. Brad Smith, no, not Brad Smith. Where did Brad Smith go after the Jets? We know he went to I almost typed in Brad Smith, and I got like a picture of some sourdough bread popping up. He went from the Jets to the Bills to the Eagles. Yeah, it wasn't Curtis. Curtis did not play for Miami. Got about 40 seconds left. Dustin Keller. I think Keller was Keller was not in New England. Did Keller play anywhere but with us? Yeah, Keller was a Jet. Yeah, Keller only played 5 years in the NFL, and they were all with the Jets. It's crazy. Keller played for 4 full seasons, then 8 seasons in 2012, and then he never played again. 8 games in 2012, and then he never played again. Damn. All right, 5 seconds left. All right, we're going to call it. All right, it is a wide receiver. And he did have a pretty important catch for the Jets at one point. At a time when they were a good team. I'll see if I can narrow this down for you a little bit. But yeah, he's a wide receiver who did catch at least one big touchdown for the Jets. So this is not a no-name, I can assure you. But he also went on to play with Baltimore, and he actually finished his career with the Dallas Cowboys. Santana Moss, no. Chancey Stuckey, no. So he played the first 4 years of his career with the Jets. Played college ball in where did he go to school? Or number 89 with the Jets, if that helps. Let's go back. Yep, Yeti, there it is. Dedrick Ward. That's right. Dedrick Ward played, I think it was 61 games with the New York Jets. All right. So he played 6. Then he was in Miami from 01 to 02. And then in 2004, he played 3 games with the New England Patriots. I think some of us, we might have thought of him with the Dolphins, but yeah, he actually played 3 games with New England. So, yeah, there we go. All right. Yeti's got one. All right, Yeti, I'll tell you what. Roger, I mentioned it first. So, Roger, if you want to put whatever you have to say, put it right down there in the chat. Got a nice turnout tonight. Hey, thanks, everybody, for swinging by. And I think we got, 17 days till training camp opens. Thank the Lord. Yeah, Kotri came. Tony Alexio says Kotri. Yeah, became a bit of a journeyman after he left the Jets. Yeah, that's like one of those for a lot of us, that's like the player that we let get away that in recent times that just really, really hurts. There were a lot in the old days in the 70s, like Burgess Owens and Verlin Biggs and John Riggins and guys like that. But yeah, Kotri was losing Kotri, that hurt. Thanks, Dane. Yeah, I like the 6 p.m. thing. I come back from work. I've got a little bit of energy still built up. I don't have to build it back up as the night goes on. Yeah, it works pretty well. And yeah, and the Mets start in 5 minutes. All right. Yeti got one. He got the trivia. Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you meant. All right. Raj, I'll give you another minute if you want to throw it in. All right. Let's see how we're doing in the chat. Let's see how those likes are coming along. Remember, 15 likes, we do the wheel. We're a little bit short of the goal, guys. So if you want to do the wheel, you're gonna have to hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. Helps out the channel, gets it out there to the unwashed masses. So, okay. What's this? What's this new news? We got a Woj bomb here in the NBA. What is this? The NBA reaches a $76 billion 11-year media deal, and that's all it says. Okay. We've got T. Mujin, newest member of the channel. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. You scroll. Oh, you posted it? Okay. In 82, we lost to the Feds due to hijinks to the water field. Right. Don Shula wouldn't put the tarp on the field and eliminated our running game, so we would have played the Skins in the Super Bowl. How would we have done sack exchange against the Hogs, MVP 44, had 162 rushing yards for Ricketts. How would we have done this? I was born a year prior to that. So it's a little bit unfair for me to say, but I definitely think it would have been a very competitive Super Bowl. But maybe they would have. Here's the thing: Gastineau could play the run, even though he was an excellent pass rusher. I mean, all four of those guys could block. So it might have been one of those things where they just try to keep wearing him down. But then you look at the other side of the ball, and so Richard Todd would have been the quarterback. With Walker, and I don't think with Walker, I think Schuler would have still been there. Was Freeman the running back at that time? I think. I'm going to pull up the Jets starting roster here so we can make of this. Yeah, if we did those simulations. Yeah, Richard Freeman, Johnny Lamb Jones was there. You had a very good offensive line. Chris Ward at left tackle. Joe Fields at center, Dan Alexander right guard, Marvin Powell was at right tackle, Stan Waldemore at left guard, who I've never heard of. But then you had it wasn't just the sack exchange. You still had at linebacker Greg Buttle and Lance Smell, quarterbacks Bobby Jackson and Jerry Holmes. You did a pretty good job against Washington. Yeah, I definitely think they would have messed with Theismann for sure. So yeah, it definitely would have. I think it would have been a more competitive game. I think that's pretty fair to say. But yeah, thanks for the question. Freeman was a rookie. Yeah. Freeman McNeil, I'm pretty sure, was drafted in 82. I think he was drafted right after. Was he the number 3 pick in that draft? Yeah, 1982 draft. Oh, that would have been 81 then. Okay, 81. Yeah, that's it. So with the first overall pick, the New Orleans Saints select George Rogers, running back, South Carolina, Heisman Trophy winner. Second pick, the Giants select Lawrence Taylor. You might have heard of him. Third, we picked Freeman McNeil. Didn't work out too badly, but after that, the Seahawks select Kenny Easley, who is a safety who. Actually, I think he was actually a Hall of Famer. Kenny Easley, number 4. And then later in that draft, you had, Ronnie Lott was drafted number 8. Mike Singletary was drafted in the second round, but he wanted to be a Bear. Howie Long in the second round. Ricky Jackson in the second round. Russ Grimm, third rounder. That's another Hall of Famer. This draft was loaded. And, Freeman McNeil was fine. You can't kill that draft pick. What was for supper? Bratwurst with potatoes, peppers, and onions. And some of that garlic mustard aioli from Trader Joe's. Nick, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. I did a 4-hour roast naming the channel on Mother's Day weekend 22. I should be a member. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. And I think Nick is actually going to be going live a little bit later on tonight. It's so hard for me to check my phone when I'm doing the shows. But yeah, he will be on at 9 p.m. tonight. Okay. Nick, I'll text you. Nick, I'll text you back in a couple minutes. Yeah. Let me quickly retrieve my documents here. All right, 714. All right. We'll get rid of that. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you what. We're a little bit short on the likes to do the wheel tonight, so I know, Roger. I know you can't wait, but unfortunately, we are a little bit short on the likes tonight. We're at 12 and we need 15. So, I think the Mother's Day Marathon, yes, the 6-hour, the origination of the wicker chair. For anybody who never saw that show where the legend of the wicker chair came from, it was Mother's Day 2022, and that's why we have this behind us now. So, and yes, the wicker chair is fine. It is safe. It is right here in the living room. Just a little hard to record from with the lighting and the angles, but yeah, it would not be a home without the wicker chair, So, all right, guys, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to call it a night. Yeah, maybe we could bring the wheel over to Nick's channel tonight. Maybe I can drop by a little bit later. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm going to go check out the Mets Nationals game right now. And keep a reminder, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. But also don't forget the notification bell, and you'll get an alert whenever I post a video or when I go live. So everybody, I want to thank you all very much for dropping by, for interacting with me in the chat, for the thumbs up. Every little thing you do, it matters. So everybody, happy humping. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair. Good night, everybody.